Ever find yourself kind of curious about what professors actually do all day? I mean, sure, we see them in class, maybe read their research, but like, is there more to the story?
Yeah, there's definitely a whole lot more going on behind the scenes than just lectures and grading. It's
Yeah.
kind of like how do they show the full scope of their work, right? Not just the hits, so to speak.
Exactly. And that's actually what we're going to dig into today in this deep dive, the mysterious world of the academic portfolio.
Ooh, mysterious. I like that.
So, to guide us today, you've brought along some pretty cool stuff. We've got excerpts from, let me see, The Academic Portfolio by Peter Selden and J. Elizabeth Miller. Sounds like a pretty authoritative text on the topic.
Yeah, this book is kind of considered the Bible for academic portfolios. It lays out all the fundamentals, like what it is, why it matters, all that good stuff. But, and this is where it gets really interesting for our listeners, we're not just going to be talking theory today.
Right. We've also got some real life examples of these portfolios from actual professors, and not just from one field either. We're talking product design, political science, even jazz performance, a real mix.
Exactly. So the book gives us the framework, the what and the why, but these real-world examples really bring it to life. They show us how different professors with their unique specialities actually put these principles into practice. It's fascinating to see how it all plays out.
So, the mission for our listeners today is to walk away with the solid understanding of what this whole academic portfolio thing is all about. Why is it such a cornerstone of the academic world? And what kind of surprising insights can we glean from these portfolios, these glimpses into the daily grind of being a professor? We're going beyond just the definition here, right?
Absolutely. We're diving deep into the nitty-gritty, exploring the real impact and significance of academic portfolios.
Okay, so first things first, let's break it down. What exactly is an academic portfolio? It sounds kind of like, I don't know, a supercharged resume or something.
You're on the right track, but it's definitely more nuanced than just a beefed-up CV. Think of it as a carefully curated collection of materials that showcase the professor's work, not just in teaching but also in research, and what's often called service to their university and the wider academic community.
Carefully curated being the operative phrase here, right? So it's not just a giant file dump of every single thing they've ever done.
Exactly. It's about highlighting quality and impact. It's about telling a story. And here's where it gets really different from a traditional CV. Academic portfolios also include a reflective element. Professors aren't just showing what they've done, they're explaining the why behind their work, the choices they made, the goals they were striving for.
So it's almost like a narrative, right? That they're presenting the evidence of their work, but also guiding the reader through their thought process, their approach.
Precisely. And the aim is to paint a much fuller, more accurate picture of their professional life than you might get from just, say, student evaluations or a list of publications. It's about showing the whole person, the whole academic.
That makes a lot of sense. So why are these portfolios so important within academia? What's the main purpose they serve?
Well, one of the most crucial roles they play is in those big career moments for professors. Promotions, tenure decisions, even reappointment. Instead of relying on, potentially limited metrics, review committees can really dive deep into these portfolios to get a much more holistic view of the professor's contributions.
So it levels the playing field a bit, right? Because someone could be a fantastic teacher, but maybe haven't published as much research yet.
Exactly. It allows for a more nuanced and balanced evaluation of someone's overall impact.
Mm.
But here's a surprising thing for our listeners. It's not just about external evaluations. The process of creating a portfolio can actually be incredibly valuable for a professor's own self-reflection and professional growth.
Hmm. That is interesting. I guess in the busyness of teaching and research and everything else, you don't always get a chance to step back and take stock.
That's so true. But putting together a portfolio forces you to do just that. It encourages professors to critically analyze their own work, identify recurring themes, and see how the different aspects of their academic life, teaching, research, service connect, or maybe don't connect as well as they thought.
Oh, so it can highlight potential blind spots, areas where they could improve or reevaluate their approach.
Exactly. And we even have some great examples of this in our sources. One English professor in California described the process as motivating and even eye-opening. They realized their teaching, research, and service weren't as integrated as they initially assumed. And an engineering professor from Indiana found that it helped them identify areas for potential improvement much more clearly.
So it's a tool for self-improvement as much as it is for evaluation. It makes you think, huh,
Yeah, it really highlights the power of structured self-assessment, even for seasoned professionals. Now, another important function of these portfolios, especially in a university setting with so many different fields of study, is that it helps facilitate communication across those disciplines. When a promotion committee has members from outside a professor's specific area, the portfolio can really help them understand the nature and significance of that professor's research, even if it's super specialized.
Oh, that's so crucial because trying to grasp the nuances of highly technical research in a completely different field, that can be really daunting.
Right. It's like trying to read a book in a language you don't understand.
Yeah.
But the portfolio allows the professor to explain their work in a way that's accessible to a broader academic audience, bridging that gap. And there's another aspect of this whole portfolio thing that I find really empowering for faculty. It gives them a chance to proactively choose what best represents their work rather than just, passively responding to whatever information administrators happen to ask for. It puts them in the driver's seat, so to speak.
Yeah, it gives them more agency in the evaluation process, which I imagine is a huge relief for some. And I bet it also fosters a sense of community and mentorship among faculty, right? Because you're not just creating this thing in isolation.
You're absolutely right. Often professors develop their portfolios with the guidance of mentors, those more experienced colleagues who've been through the process before. And there's a lot of discussion and feedback among peers as well. This collaborative element came up a lot in our research. A philosophy professor from Colorado described the mentoring they received as absolutely crucial, saying it pushed them to consider their work from new angles. And a religion professor in Maryland also emphasized how important it was to guide junior faculty through this whole portfolio development process.
It's nice to hear that it's not just a solitary, stressful endeavor. Okay, so we've talked about the why of academic portfolios, but now let's get down to the what. What are the key components that typically make up one of these portfolios?
The main sections usually align with those three core areas of a professor's work: teaching, research, and service. And within each section, they'll include different types of evidence and those all-important reflective statements we talked about. Let's start with teaching, since that's probably the aspect of a professor's work that most students are familiar with.
Yeah, that's the front-facing part of the job, right? The part we see as students.
Right. But a teaching portfolio goes way beyond just those end-of-semester student evaluations. It often begins with the professor's teaching philosophy and methodology. This is where they articulate their core beliefs about teaching and learning, explain their overall approach to instruction.
So it's like they're saying, here's why I teach the way I do, here are my guiding principles.
Yeah. Exactly. They might talk about their pedagogical methods, their preferred teaching styles, their strategies for engaging students, their goals for what they want students to take away from their courses. And then, to back all of this up, they'll typically include course materials, like their syllabi. The book actually calls a syllabus a blueprint for the course, which I thought was a really fitting description.
Oh, I like that, because it really is, right? It lays out the whole structure and plan for the course.
Exactly. And the examples we have are so detailed. They outline not just the topics covered, but also the learning objectives, the specific assignments, the grading breakdown is all there. Professors might also include samples of particularly creative or effective assignments they've designed, explain how they incorporate technology into their teaching, whether that's online platforms, presentations, or even their own websites. And they'll show how they've revised their courses over time to make them better, to address student feedback, or incorporate new pedagogical approaches. We have great examples of this from across different fields. Professors using in-class problem solving in engineering, case studies, and Socratic dialogue in education, even online tools for Spanish language learning. It really gives you a window into their teaching process.
It's so much more insightful than just seeing a numerical rating on a student evaluation. Speaking of student feedback, is that included in the portfolio as well?
Absolutely. Both the quantitative evaluations, those numerical scores, and the qualitative feedback, those written comments, can provide really valuable perspectives on the professor's teaching effectiveness from the student's point of view. We even saw examples of, consistently high ratings in genetics courses and positive comments on interactive teaching styles in nutrition. But a strong portfolio also goes beyond simply showing that they're a good teacher. It demonstrates a commitment to continuous improvement.
So they're not just resting on their laurels, they're actively seeking ways to enhance their teaching.
Exactly. They might include evidence of professional development activities they've participated in, like workshops on new teaching techniques. Or they might describe how they've implemented innovative approaches in their classroom, maybe incorporating podcasting or using a classroom response system. There's a great example of a nutrition professor who was really dedicated to improving their online teaching methods. It shows a real commitment to growth. And some universities also include classroom observation reports in the teaching portfolio, which are basically peer or administrative evaluations of the professor's teaching. So it's a pretty comprehensive look at their teaching practices.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, so that's teaching. Now, what about research and scholarship? I imagine that can look vastly different depending on the field.
You're telling me. This is where the diversity of academia really shines through. This section usually starts with a clear description of the professor's research focus, their specific area of expertise, and then they highlight their key accomplishments in that area. This is where you'll see the what of their scholarly work. The journal articles, books, presentations at conferences, grants they've received to support their research, even creative outputs like musical performances or artwork. Our examples really run the gamut. We've got highly abstract theoretical research in operator theory, which might have some amazing real-world applications down the line. There's interdisciplinary work in biomedical engineering that's attracted significant funding. We've got exhibitions and publications in product design, fieldwork, and peer-reviewed articles in political science, and even public concerts, recordings, and workshops for jazz performance. It's really eye-opening to see how scholarship manifests in these different fields.
Talk about a wide range of contributions. It really challenges your preconceived notions of what research even means.
It definitely does.
Right.
But a strong research portfolio goes beyond just listing these activities.
Mm.
It also explains the so what, the significance and potential impact of their work. Why does this research matter? What does it contribute to their field or to society more broadly? They might also highlight collaborative projects, especially those that involve working with researchers from other disciplines, which shows their ability to think across boundaries.
And finally, we have the third core area, service. What exactly does that entail in an academic context?
Service is all about contributing to the smooth functioning of the university and to the broader academic community. It's kind of the unsung hero of academia. This often involves participating in various committees, both at the departmental level and university-wide. It could be serving on curriculum development committees, the faculty senate, search committees for new faculty hires, or even committees that handle student grievances. Professors also often contribute to professional organizations in their field, serving on boards, reviewing journal submissions, organizing conferences, things like that. Our examples show involvement in organizations like the National Collegiate Honors Council. We even have professors doing community outreach, advising student clubs, or offering their expertise to local organizations. The portfolio should clearly outline their roles and contributions in all these different areas.
Wow, it sounds like academics spend a lot of time in meetings. It's a much more administrative role than I would have imagined.
It definitely can be. And, the book even jokes that faculty sometimes feel like they're stuck in endless hours and endless meetings. But while service might sometimes be seen as less glamorous than teaching or research, it's a really essential part of being a responsible member of the academic community. It's about contributing to the overall health and well-being of the institution. The portfolio might also include information on the professor's work advising and mentoring students, which demonstrates their dedication to nurturing the next generation of scholars and professionals. And for some, service learning activities, where they connect their teaching and research to real-world community needs, might also be highlighted in this section.
It's really fascinating to see how all these different aspects of a professor's work are documented and taken into consideration. But is there a sense of how they all fit together? Do these different areas, teaching, research, service, influence each other in any way?
That's a great question. And yes, a well-crafted portfolio often includes a section specifically focused on the integration of their professional work. Professors reflect on how these different activities inform and enrich each other. For example, their research findings might directly shape what they teach in the classroom, or their expertise in a certain area might lead to opportunities for service in the community. We see this in the portfolios of professors in teacher education and English, for example. These reflective statements are really key to showing how these seemingly disparate pieces of their career actually come together to form a cohesive whole. They demonstrate the synergy between teaching, research, and service.
So it's not just about checking off boxes in 3 separate categories. It's about showing how those categories actually intersect and create a more unified professional identity. Now, shifting gears a bit, what about the actual physical portfolio itself? Are there standard ways these are organized?
The book mentions that a good old-fashioned binder with tabs is still a perfectly acceptable and often quite cost-effective way to organize a portfolio. It allows for easy adding and removing of materials as a professor's work evolves over time.
Makes sense. But I imagine it's not just about shoving a bunch of documents in a binder and calling it a day, right?
Oh, absolutely not. What's consistently emphasized is the importance of a narrative section, where the professor provides context and explains the significance of the evidence they're presenting. It's like they're guiding the reader through their portfolio, telling their story.
So it's the professor's voice shining through, connecting the dots, adding that personal touch.
Exactly. And the actual supporting documents themselves, like syllabi, publications, evaluation reports, all that stuff, usually goes in appendices at the back. The book also really stresses the importance of tailoring the portfolio to reflect the individual's own style, priorities, and the specific expectations within their discipline. What's considered important for a scientist might be very different from what's valued in the humanities or the arts. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And looking ahead, a good portfolio often includes a section outlining the professor's goals for future development, whether that's refining their teaching techniques, exploring new research avenues, or increasing the impact of their work.
So it's forward-looking as well as retrospective. It shows a commitment to continued growth. Now, I'm sure there are some potential concerns or drawbacks to this whole portfolio approach. For instance, could someone with a really impressive presentation style potentially mask underlying weaknesses in their actual performance? Could it become more about style over substance?
That's a really valid concern. But the book addresses this head-on. They state pretty unequivocally that a slick presentation can't hide fundamental flaws in a professor's teaching, research, or service. The evidence itself will always be the most important factor.
That's reassuring. What about the time commitment involved in creating one of these portfolios? It sounds pretty time-consuming.
Oh, it definitely can be. The book acknowledges this and recommends that professors give themselves a year or two to really do it right, especially if it's a new initiative at their institution. It's not something you could just whip up overnight. And they also emphasize quality over quantity. It should be a carefully curated selection, not a data dump of everything they've ever done.
So it's about being strategic and thoughtful, not just exhaustive.
Absolutely. And in the end, the goal is to present a fair, accurate, and engaging portrait of their life as an academic. It's a pretty remarkable undertaking.
This has been such an enlightening discussion. So for our listeners, what are the key takeaways from our deep dive into academic portfolios?
Well, I think the main thing to remember is that these portfolios offer a much richer and more nuanced understanding of what professors actually do than we might typically get from just seeing them in the classroom or reading their published work. It highlights the importance of reflection, the interconnectedness of teaching, research, and service, and the need to demonstrate the real-world impact of their work. It moves beyond those simple metrics and encourages a much deeper appreciation for the multifaceted nature of an academic career.
It really humanizes the profession in a way, right? It shows that there's a lot more going on beneath the surface than we might realize.
Exactly. It's a demanding and diverse career path. And on that note, here's a final thought for our listeners to chew on. How might this concept of the academic portfolio be applied to other professions outside of academia? Could creating a portfolio that showcases not just your accomplishments, but also the why behind your work, your thought process, your guiding principles, could that lead to some unexpected insights for people in all sorts of careers? Could it help them understand their own professional journeys in a more holistic way?
That's a really intriguing question. If you're curious to explore this further, we encourage you to check out some resources on academic portfolio development. You might be surprised by what you discover. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.